What if the biggest mystery in rock history wasn't about the music, but a final message that never reached its destination? Michael Anthony just broke his silence on the one thing Eddie Van Halen wanted to say before it was too late, and the truth will change how you hear Van Halen forever. For decades, the narrative surrounding the legendary rock band Van Halen has been dominated by tales of massive egos, fractured friendships, and bitter, irreconcilable rivalries. But beneath the surface of the explosive guitar solos, the acrobatic leaps, and the stadium-shaking anthems lies a deeply human story about unresolved legacy, silent regrets, and a final, desperate attempt at reconciliation that the world is only just now beginning to fully understand. We have always been told a very specific, carefully curated story about Michael Anthony's exit from the band, a story painted with cold betrayal and heartless exclusion. But recent revelations have completely flipped that script, turning a classic rock documentary into a poignant human tragedy. To truly understand the overwhelming gravity of this final secret, we have to look at the current landscape of the Van Halen universe. Recently, the heavy, suffocating silence that has hung over the Van Halen camp since Eddie's tragic passing in October 2020 has been broken in profound and unexpected ways. In late 2024, Alex Van Halen released his highly anticipated memoir, Brothers, cracking open the family vault for the very first time. While Alex's book heavily focuses on the unbreakable, almost mythical blood bond between him and Eddie, and praises the original David Lee Roth era as their absolute zenith, it also casts a glaring, unavoidable light on the empty spaces in the band's history. It highlights the people who were left behind in the wake of their monumental success. At the exact same time, Michael Anthony has been giving incredibly candid, vulnerable interviews, stepping out of his trademark quiet humility to discuss his deepest career regret. He recently revealed that he finally found the closure he had been searching for, not through a miraculous phone call from Eddie, but through a deeply emotional, behind-closed-doors meeting with Eddie's son, Wolfgang Van Halen, at a mammoth WVH concert in Las Vegas. This convergence of Alex's nostalgic look-back and Michael's newfound closure brings us to a singular, heartbreaking point in time. It forces us to re-examine the bitter end of the original lineup and exposes the hidden reality of what Eddie Van Halen was actually feeling in his final days. This isn't just about rock and roll trivia. This is about the heavy toll of unspoken words, the illusion of time, and the devastating reality of running out of runway. Let's dive deep into the anatomy of this fracture, because you cannot possibly appreciate the immense weight of the reconciliation without understanding the devastating depth of the wound. For years, Michael Anthony was the undisputed bedrock of Van Halen. He was the sonic glue that held the chaos together. While Eddie was busy revolutionizing the electric guitar and Alex was constructing massive, thundering rhythms, Michael provided not only the relentless, driving bass lines, but also the soaring, angelic backing vocals that were the undeniable secret weapon of the Van Halen sound. Yet, despite his absolutely crucial contributions, the power dynamics within the band began to shift dramatically. By the mid to late 90s, the brotherhood had fractured beyond recognition. Michael was systematically diminished within the organization. First, there was the infamous demotion, where he lost his equal share of the publishing rights, a brutal, calculated business move that forced him to literally sign away his life's work just to remain on the tour. Imagine dedicating your entire youth to building a global empire, only to be told you are now just a disposable employee of that empire. Second, the brothers perceived Michael's continuing friendship and musical collaborations with ousted singer Sammy Hagar as a direct, unforgivable act of treason. In the intensely loyal, almost tribal mindset of the Van Halen brothers, you were either completely with them or you were dead to them. When Michael chose to tour with Sammy, having fun and playing the hits to sold-out arenas, Eddie and Alex saw it as a knife in the back. Third, by the time the grueling 2004 reunion tour rolled around, the atmosphere was incredibly toxic. Michael was effectively treated as an unwanted ghost, an outsider in his own band. He was isolated from the inner circle, confined to his own dressing room, and subjected to a freezing, silent treatment that completely lacked any of the youthful joy that originally fueled the band's rise to stardom. When he was finally, officially replaced by a teenage Wolfgang Van Halen in 2007, the narrative seemed set in stone. Eddie had banished Michael, the bridge was burned to ash, and the ashes were scattered. The media ran with it, the fans mourned it, and it became accepted rock history that Eddie Van Halen carried a bitter, unyielding grudge against his former bassist right up until his dying breath. But wait, stop right there. What if everything we were told about Eddie's final feelings toward Michael Anthony was completely, fundamentally wrong? What if, in the shadows, away from the glaring lights of the press and the relentless noise of the industry, Eddie was desperately trying to reverse course? We are looking at a massive, paradigm-shifting plot twist that rewrites 40 years of rock history. According to recent statements from Michael himself, the grand finale of Van Halen wasn't supposed to be a quiet fade to black. Eddie was secretly organizing a monumental, all-encompassing reunion tour. And the biggest shock of all, he explicitly wanted Michael Anthony back. The villain narrative we've been fed for over a decade was actually dissolving in real time, replaced by a dying man's desperate race to make amends. This revelation changes everything we thought we knew about Eddie Van Halen's final chapter. The counterintuitive perspective here is that the true enemy of the original Van Halen lineup wasn't ego, and it wasn't animosity. It was simply the clock. Michael Anthony confirmed that Wolfgang Van Halen reached out and explicitly told him about his father's intentions. Eddie had finally reached a point in his life where the petty squabbles, the brutal business disputes, and the territorial grudges no longer mattered. He had adopted a mindset of letting the past be the past, recognizing that the pure, unfiltered magic they created together in their youth was far more important than the friction that tore them apart as adults. The grand master plan was to bring absolutely everyone back. David Lee Roth, Sammy Hagar, Michael Anthony, Alex, and Eddie. A massive, world-shaking celebration of the entire Van Halen legacy. Eddie wanted to look across the stage and see the man who had anchored his riffs for decades. Unfortunately, his health rapidly deteriorated, and the Grand Reconciliation Tour was stolen from them. Eddie passed away in October 2020 before he could pick up the phone and say the words directly to Michael. The tragic paradox of this situation is that the exact moment Eddie became fully willing to heal the rift, his physical body betrayed him. The silence that followed wasn't a silence of anger, it was a silence of interrupted plans. It was a vital message trapped in a bottle that never reached the shore. But the story doesn't end in tragedy because the message eventually found its way. This brings us to the actionable, profoundly emotional closure that took place in late 2023. Michael Anthony attended a concert in Las Vegas to watch Wolfgang perform. Afterward, the two sat down backstage. Valerie Bertinelli, Eddie's ex-wife and Wolfgang's mother, was also there. In that room, two generations of Van Halen history collided. Wolfgang, carrying the immense emotional weight of his father's unspoken words, served as the conduit for Eddie's final secret. He delivered the truth to Michael. He let him know that he was loved, that he was respected, and that he was desperately wanted at the very end. For Michael Anthony, a man who had every right to carry a lifetime of bitterness, this conversation was the ultimate release valve. He chose grace. He chose to accept the intention behind the unmade phone call. This is a masterclass in emotional intelligence. Instead of focusing on the fact that he was treated poorly in the past, Michael focused on the fact that the hatchet was buried in Eddie's heart before he died. This completely reframes the narrative of Alex Van Halen's book, too. Alex's memoir, Brothers, is largely a love letter to his fallen sibling and a fierce homage to the original spark of the band. But Alex has notoriously remained fiercely silent regarding the Sammy Hagar era and Michael's exit, leaving fans feeling like the story was incomplete. Michael's quiet closure with Wolfgang actually fills in the blanks that Alex's book leaves open. It provides the missing chapter. It shows us that while Alex might still hold onto the pristine, untouchable image of the 1970s, Eddie himself was ready to embrace every single era of the band. The vault isn't just full of unreleased guitar tracks, it is full of profound human redemption. We can see the monumental importance of this kind of closure when we look at the broader landscape of rock and roll history. Look at bands like Pantera or Pink Floyd, where massive egos and bitter disputes resulted in permanent, unbridgeable divides. In Pantera's case, the tragic passing of Dimebag Darrell and later Vinnie Paul meant that the vicious rift with Phil Anselmo was never healed in life, leaving a permanent dark cloud over their legacy that even current tribute tour cannot fully wash away. Pink Floyd's Roger Waters and David Gilmour remain locked in a seemingly endless war of words, allowing their twilight years to be defined by spite rather than celebration. In stark contrast, Michael Anthony's handling of the Van Halen situation is a real-world example of exceptional emotional maturity. He didn't demand a public apology. He didn't write a vindictive tell-all book trashing the brothers to make a quick profit. He waited, he listened, and when the truth was delivered by Wolfgang, he accepted it with open arms. It proves that reconciliation doesn't always require a grand public gesture or a legally binding contract. Sometimes, it just requires a quiet, honest conversation in a backstage room and the willingness to let go of a heavy burden that no longer serves you. In the end, Eddie Van Halen's final secret was a message of peace. It was a profound desire to mend the broken strings of a brotherhood that literally changed the world. While we will never get to see that ultimate reunion tour play out under the stadium lights, the knowledge that it was actively planned and that Eddie's heart was entirely in the right place gives millions of fans the beautiful send-off they never got to see on stage. Michael Anthony's incredible story is a beautiful reminder that while the music lives forever, the time we have to forgive each other is painfully, terrifyingly limited. So the next time you hear those iconic backing vocals harmonizing over a blistering Eddie Van Halen guitar solo, you won't just hear a band that fell apart under the weight of its own fame. You will hear a family that, in the very end, found its way back together in spirit. If this story changed the way you view the legacy of Van Halen, you need to hear the shocking truth about what really happened during the infamous Sammy Hagar years. So keep watching to uncover the next missing piece of the puzzle.